Hey guys, tonight we take a little midnight walk through the narrow, foul-smelling alleys of a city where time has cracked and the world is bleeding at the seams. There's a thick fog hugging the rooftops, and something darker clings to the walls, an air of dread, old as bones and twice as brittle. You're stepping into the boots of a medieval plague doctor. Yes, that guy. The one in the long black robe and the bird mask that looks like he's late to a Renaissance masquerade. And here's the thing, they've just handed you the job. Congratulations. Don't worry, you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where and when you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The hiring process is, well, let's call it relaxed. No fancy interviews, no degrees, and no one checks your pulse for a medical license. You're the warm body willing to walk into the infected district. That's good enough. Maybe you were a barber surgeon before this. Maybe a town clerk. Maybe just someone with a strong stomach and a very poor sense of smell. And now? Now you're a plague doctor. You're told the costume is standard. You nod solemnly, even though you're really just wondering how to breathe through a beak full of herbs and old myth. The hood is stiff, waxed fabric designed to repel the pestilence in the air, or so they say. You'll learn quickly that medieval science has a lot of theories and very few results. The first time you put it on, it feels theatrical, like you're playing a role in someone else's nightmare. But by the third time, when you see what's behind the doors you're knocking on, the costume feels more like armour. Not good armour. Good. More like soggy leather confidence. You're also issued a wooden staff, not for walking, for poking. You prod patients from a distance, lift their bedsheets with it, or knock on doors when your hands are too busy holding your panic. Some plague doctors used it to ward off the desperate, others to guide the dying gently to confession. Here's a fun detail historians love. Most plague doctors were hired by towns not to heal, but to count bodies, keep death records, and maybe convince people to stay indoors. Your actual medical role? Very negotiable. Some cities handed you a coin and a cross. Others gave you a cart and said, bring back the one still breathing. Your public health. Medieval edition. No gloves, no lab, no real support. Just you, your beak, and the sound of coughing around every corner. And people don't trust you. To them, you're a grim omen walking. You only show up when things are already awful. There are stories, always stories, that plague doctors carry the disease instead of curing it. That your mask holds death. That your touch rots the soul. You'll get used to being cursed at from behind shutters. One time, a terrified child throws a chicken at you. You don't dodge. It hits your mask. The chicken lives. You can't be sure about the kid. Historians still argue whether plague doctors were brave public servants or just better-dressed harbingers. Some had genuine training. Others read 2 scrolls and hoped no one asked follow-up questions. There's even debate about whether the infamous bird mask was widely used during the Black Death of the 14th century, or if it became common only later, during outbreaks in 17th century France and Italy. One thing's for sure, it's iconic, and it doesn't do much except fog up on the inside and make people scream a little quieter when they see you. On your first day, the town council gives you a room, windowless, damp, technically not stable anymore. They also give you a promise. If you die, your belongings go to your assistant. You don't have an assistant. They shrug. You're not exactly set up for success. But there's a strange pride in it too, in the way you square your shoulders and walk into danger, even when your tools are bad guesses and your training consists of being slightly less terrified than everyone else. There's even a moment, brief and soft, when you catch your own reflection in a cracked mirror. Black robe, pale gloves, the long curve of the mask, and think, maybe I do look like hope. Or maybe a large bird that's about to sneeze, and then a bell tolls, someone else has died. You tighten your gloves, grab your stick and step out into the street. The door slams behind you. You're officially on duty. You start sweating before you've taken 10 steps. The outfit is less protective gear and more slow cooker for humans. The long black overcoat, often made from layers of waxed canvas or stiff leather, is designed to be impermeable to disease-carrying vapours, or, as medieval doctors would say, miasma. You're sealed up like leftovers in a smokehouse. No airflow, no relief, and absolutely no respect for your pores. Your gloves are thick and clumsy, your boots are heavy, and the mask? Well, the mask is a marvel of wrong-headed optimism. The curved beak juts out like you're cosplaying as an anxious raven. Inside, it's stuffed with strong-smelling herbs, spices and dried flowers, lavender, cloves, rose petals, maybe a dab of camphor if you're lucky. This is your personal scent fortress against the stink of death. It doesn't work. The mask might slightly dull the odours, but it mostly fogs up from your own breath. You're constantly adjusting it, tilting your head just so to stop the condensation drip. Every few minutes you catch a whiff of something foul slipping through the herbs, and you wonder what's worse, the plague or the haunting mix of sweat, mouldy sage and desperation you've created in your face chamber. Still, the look serves a purpose. It scares children, sure, but it also creates distance. The outfit makes you feel less human. That's a mercy, really. You're about to see things no person should watch with bare skin or a bare heart. The suit isn't just a health hazard, it's a heat trap. In summer, you feel like a rotisserie chicken with a PhD in pain. You're chafing in places you didn't know had names. You start walking slower, but not for drama. It's because your thighs have declared independence. In winter, you think maybe the outfit will help. Insulation, right? But the waxed fabric stiffens, cracks at the seams, and lets in the cold like a bad secret. Your fingers go numb inside your gloves, your mask grows icy at the beak, and when it snows, the white dust sticks to your black robes, painting you like a ghost in reverse. People don't invite you indoors. They see the outfit and assume something awful has happened. Usually they're right. One woman sees you from a window and screams so hard she faints. A group of children runs from you, then circles back to throw mud at your boots. One monk blesses you in Latin, and then immediately runs the other way, and you still have a job to do. Historians still debate the actual purpose of the costume. Was it symbolic protection, like a talisman against evil? Was it truly believed to prevent disease, or just a theatrical warning sign? Plague here, avoid eye contact. Some argue the outfit made people feel like authorities were in control. Others say it just made it easier to identify who to blame when things went very, very wrong. One fringe theory even suggests the costume was meant to dehumanize you, a sort of psychological distance tool. The bird mask, the anonymity. It all strips away the individual. You're not Dr. Petrus anymore. You're the plague doctor, an archetype, an omen. On the upside, the outfit gives you a kind of power. You glide silently through the streets. Doors creak shut as you pass. No one questions your right to enter homes, inspect bodies or bark orders. It's like being a medieval ghost with municipal authority. But that silence gets heavy. You become aware of every squeak in your boots, every rustle of your sleeves. The robe clings to your back like a second skin. You try not to think about the fact that it's probably contaminated, that your mask is just theatrical woodworking, and that you're relying on good smells cancel out bad death as your medical shield. Still, you adjust your cuffs, straighten your shoulders, keep walking. There's something comforting in the routine. Dress, breathe, walk, knock, observe, walk away. You tell yourself that the layers are holding the plague back. You pretend that if you just follow the ritual, you'll stay alive. One day a baker waves at you, just a small, kind wave. You nod in return and the gesture makes your chest ache. It's easy to forget that you're not just part of the scenery. You're someone's hope, however dim, however misplaced. At night, when you finally remove the outfit, it takes real effort. Your gloves peel off with a wet squelch. The robe smells like sweat, wax, and something you refuse to name. You leave it hanging over a nail, hoping it airs out, knowing it won't. You set the beaked mask down gently, like it might bite. And for a moment, just a moment, you see your reflection. No bird face, no shadowy silhouette, just you. Pale, sweaty, blinking at the candlelight. You almost miss the mask. Your staff taps against the crooked stones as you trudge through the silent morning. The sun's barely up, but someone's already sent word. Another house, another sick family, another knock that might be your last. The city doesn't greet you kindly. Cats scatter, windows slam shut. One old man mutters a prayer and draws an invisible cross on his doorframe as you pass. You don't stop to explain that you're not here to curse the block. You're just doing your job, what's left of it. When you arrive, the door's already ajar. A boy, no older than 10, watches you from behind the broken planks. His eyes are red-rimmed but dry. That's a bad sign. Children cry when things might be bad. When they stop, it's already too late. You push the door open with your staff, never your hand. Inside, it smells like mildew, damp bread, and old sweat. You've smelled worse. You will again. The mother lies on the floor. Her face is blotchy, her lips dark, her eyes unfocused. She flinches at the light, mumbling prayers under her breath, not to you, but to anyone else who might be listening. Her husband stands beside her, holding her hand with the same expression soldiers have before the arrows fly. You can't do much. You kneel carefully on the opposite side of the room. Even from here you can see the swelling under her arms, buboes, angry, red, pulsing with fever. Your breath slows in the mask. You count. 1, 2, 3. She's further along than you hoped. Drink this, you say, pulling a small vial from your satchel. It's vinegar steeped in rosemary. Medieval Gatorade, basically. It won't help. But it feels like doing something. She takes it, sips, and winces. Her husband thanks you like you've handed him a miracle. You nod and begin to inspect the room. This part matters. Not because of the cure, there is none, but because someone has to record the condition of the house. Someone has to take note of the bodies, the living, the order of death, that someone is you. You scribble in your journal. 2 adults, 1 child, 1 infected, 1 likely exposed. The boy hasn't moved. You wave your hand slowly. He watches your glove move through the air but doesn't blink. This is not new to him. He's already learned to fear stillness more than screams. You mark the door with a symbol in charcoal. It means under care, but the truth is, no one will check again for at least 3 days. Before you leave, the husband asks what he should do. You pause. There's no good answer. Burn the sheets, you say. Boil water. Pray. He nods like you've given him a spell, as if boiling water will turn back death. Historians still argue how involved plague doctors were with families, whether they spent real time with the sick or stayed just long enough to record details and move on. Some towns required you to give basic treatment, others simply wanted numbers. But here, today, you linger, because the boy's hand is still on the doorframe, because he hasn't cried, because you might be the last person to say anything kind to this family before their name's in a list. You step back into the light. The street is warmer now. The market square is quiet. Half the stalls are gone, the others manned by vendors with rags over their mouths, hands dipped in vinegar between each customer. Someone shouts your name. It's the tanner's apprentice, waving you toward a house near the well. You nod. Another call. Another sick bed. You don't get to rest. By midday you've visited 6 homes. In one, the family's already dead. In another, the father's run off, leaving 2 coughing daughters to fend for themselves. You write it all down. You touch as little as possible. You use your staff like an extension of your soul, reaching, nudging, never embracing. At the last house, a young girl hands you a bundle of dried lavender as you leave. Her mother taught her that it keeps away sickness. You accept it. Tie it to your staff. Sometimes superstition is just hope in a prettier hat. You walk back to your lodging as the sun begins to fall, casting long shadows across the rooftops. People move aside when you pass, not with hate, just fear. You understand. You don't blame them. And yet there's a moment as you turn the corner into your alley, a brief flash in a window, a candle being lit. A woman holds her infant up, bouncing him gently, and points toward you. The baby laughs. You don't wave. But for a second, behind the mask, you smile. Then you remember the family from this morning, and the boy who didn't cry, and you keep walking. You return to your room just as the sun dips behind the chapel spire, soaking the city in a smear of copper and shadow. The door creaks like it resents your return. You don't blame it. You wouldn't want to be here either. Inside, the air is thick and stale. There's no real ventilation, just a cracked window that doesn't open, and a hearth you haven't dared light in weeks. Heat means sweat, and sweat means smell, and you already smell like a dead man's laundry basket. You peel off your gloves. They make a soft sucking sound like wet paper tearing. Your hands underneath are pruny, pale and trembling slightly. The robe comes next, slowly, carefully, like undressing a wound. You hang it on a nail by the door. It slumps forward, beak first, like it's trying to bow out of the whole thing. There's a crust of dried something on the hem. You decide not to ask questions. You sit on the edge of your cot and inspect your wages. Today, they paid you in bread. One misshapen, slightly mouldy loaf, wrapped in linen and left on your doorstep. Last week it was a jug of cider and half a candle. Before that, 2 silver coins, still warm from the priest's hand. You never really know what you'll get. Some towns agreed to a salary when they hired you. Others offer whatever they can spare, assuming they're not already using it to feed their own dying families. There's a story among plague doctors, might even be true, that one man got paid in chickens, live ones. Trouble is, they died before he made it back to his quarters. He ate them anyway. You tear off a piece of bread, chew slowly, and try not to taste the mildew. You remind yourself this is noble work, vital work, work that keeps the city breathing, even as the lungs of its people fail. You don't feel noble. You feel like a scarecrow in a bird costume, underpaid and overexposed. Historians still debate how plague doctors were compensated. In some places, they were given lavish pay, hazard money really. In others, they received only room and board or small daily rations. Contracts varied wildly. One doctor in Marseille in the 1720s had his pay doubled after the previous doctor died. Bold negotiating move by the corpse, honestly. In your case, it's less about coins and more about being tolerated. Some families offer gifts, herbs, candles, a dry cloak. A few even thank you. Most, however, avoid your eyes, shove payment toward you with tongs or a broom handle, then shut the door before your shadow can cross the threshold. A baker once threw a bag of flour at your feet and whispered, "God forgive me." You're not sure what for. You took the flour anyway. Tonight, you make a thin stew with dried beans and a sliver of smoked meat. You eat it slowly, feeling each bite sit like a stone in your belly. You imagine taste because there isn't much left of it in real life. You keep your journal close. It's not for science. Not really. It's more like proof. That you were here. That someone tried. You flip to the day's notes. House calls 9. Survivors 3. Dead 5. Unclear 1. You pause at that one. It was the boy from this morning. You saw him blinking, standing, silent. But you didn't see him smile. You draw a little mark beside the name. Not a death symbol, not a recovery, just a question. One day someone might read this. Maybe they'll care. Or maybe they'll just see a list of failures, written in smudged ink. You glance at the corner of the room, where your walking stick leans against the wall. The lavender is still tied to it, dry and papery now, but still holding a ghost of its scent. You press it to your nose and breathe deep, trying to forget what the day smelled like. Down the street a bell tolls, another death. You don't count anymore, not the bells, not the days. Outside your door, someone knocks, you freeze. It's not a knock you recognize. Not one of the usual rhythms, messenger boys, town officials, the priest with bad timing. It's slow, heavy. You grab your staff and crack open the door. It's a man, gaunt and grey-faced, swaying slightly. He holds out a cloth bundle. "For your work," he croaks. Inside, there's a small jar of honey. Real honey. Expensive. Precious. You blink. "I'm not sick," he adds quickly, stepping back like you might turn to vapour. You nod once, and he disappears into the fog. You sit back down, open the jar and dip a finger in. It's sweet. So sweet. You close your eyes. For a moment, it feels like something pure. You wake up to the smell of your own mask. It's been sitting beside the bed all night, perched on the stool like a watchful crow. The dried herbs inside it have turned stale, and now the scent, once medicinal, now mildly offensive, clings to everything in the room. It's rosemary steeped in damp socks, mint with notes of regret. You sit up slowly, your back protests, your neck pops like a medieval hinge. Outside, the morning bells haven't rung yet, but you hear movement. Carts creaking, feet hurrying, whispers through the walls. The plague is never quiet. You dress quickly. Today, you swap out the old beak stuffing with a new mixture. Sage, thyme, a sprig of marjoram and 2 cloves you found in the bottom of your satchel. You crush a bay leaf for good measure. There's no science to this, just layers of guesswork held together with wishful thinking and twine. The theory behind the beak, of course, is miasma. Bad air brings bad death. That's the common belief. The herbs inside the mask are meant to filter the air, purify it somehow, and protect you from the invisible rot drifting through the streets. It's a nice idea. like thinking a dream catcher will stop a landslide. Historians still argue whether the mask did anything useful at all. Some suggest it might have offered mild protection, blocking droplets, discouraging face touching, and keeping others at a distance. Others say it was entirely psychological. If the doctor looked terrifying enough, maybe people wouldn't crowd him. Maybe he would feel braver, and maybe that's enough. You open the door and step out. It's mid-morning now, and the city's already sweating. A foul steam rises from the cobblestones. You pass a tanner's stall, long since abandoned, but the leftover hides still hang like sad flags, dripping fat and ruin into the gutter. Your first stop today is a merchant's home near the grain store. The door is marked already, black chalk, thick and recent. You knock with your staff, then again. No answer. You push it open and the smell hits you like a physical thing. It's not death. Not yet, but it's close. Inside, the merchant lies in bed, soaked in sweat. His wife sits beside him, sponging his forehead with a rag she dips in wine. The room is neat. Too neat. You've seen this before. The cleaning frenzy of the doomed, as if polished floors can confuse the plague into leaving. You approach carefully. The man looks up, and even through the mask you can tell he's terrified. Not of dying, but of dying wrong. Dying without dignity. He grips your hand hard. You let him. His wife asks if he's contagious. Her voice is small, like it's trying to hide inside her own mouth. You nod. She starts crying. You offer the standard, a linen satchel of crushed charcoal and wild rue. She looks at it like it might bite. Put it under his bed, you tell her, and open the shutters. She obeys. Not because she trusts you, but because she's run out of other options. Later that day, you visit an herbalist near the chapel. She's old, shrewd, and half blind. She's not sick, just angry. Angry that you're using all the good herbs to stuff masks instead of make poultices. Angry that your leather robe costs more than the town's grain supply. She gives you a sachet of dried orange peel anyway. You'll smell like citrus and failure, she mutters. Could be worse. You thank her. She slaps your arm. That's her way of saying, don't die. Back on the street, the odours shift again. You pass a butcher's stall long deserted. The meat's gone green, flies buzz like angry prayers. Someone's dumped lime over it, which helps a little. Not much. You press your mask closer to your face, trying to breathe only through the herbs. It kind of works. The cloves are doing their best. But everything smells like desperation anyway. You think of what this place must have smelled like before. Fresh bread in the morning, the sour tang of wine casks, pigs roasting, candles burning down to stubs, people laughing. Now it smells like vinegar, rot and fear. People are burning bundles of herbs in the street. Juniper, rosemary, pine. Thick, oily smoke curls around the buildings. You pass through it like a shadow. The fire stings your eyes through the slits in your mask. Someone drops a dried orange into the flames. The smell is sweet for exactly 3 seconds. There's a fringe theory that scent memory is stronger than visual, that your brain locks in smells with more emotional clarity. If that's true, you'll remember this forever, and so will the city. One family stops you to ask if they should hang rue above their door. Another holds out a bundle of crushed garlic. We heard it works, the boy says. You take it from him and nod. It might, you lie, because hope is sometimes garlic in a child's hand. The day drags on. You visit 12 homes. You see a woman whose skin has turned nearly black from infection. You examine a child who won't stop vomiting. You take notes. You breathe shallowly. You try not to listen to the coughing that follows you from street to street, and always the herbs. At night, when you peel off the mask, the smell clings to your skin. You scrub your face, your hands, the inside of your nose, but it stays. You dream in herbs now, fields of lavender turning brown, mint leaves crumbling into ash. Sometimes you think the mask is becoming your real face. You don't know what your own breath smells like anymore. You're called to a home just before dawn, one of those urgent knocks that tells you not to finish lacing your boots. You grab your bag, your stick, your mask, and you don't even bother tucking in your sleeves. The house is small, thatched roof, wooden walls gone soft with moisture, a door that creaks open before you even knock. A woman meets you in the doorway, eyes wide, hands bloodied. She doesn't speak. She just nods toward the corner. The man on the bed is barely conscious. Sweat rolls off his forehead like melting wax. His mouth is open. His tongue is black. You see the telltale swellings in his groin. large, angry buboes straining against skin already stretched too far. He twitches when you step close. You kneel beside him, staff resting across your knees. Here comes the part where you pretend you can help. You reach into your satchel. This house requested treatment. That's what they wrote on the parchment pinned to their door last night. Treatment, as it currently exists, is more performance than medicine. You pull out a small knife. The woman winces. You ask her to turn away. You make a small incision in the skin above the bubo. The pressure releases with a squelch that you'll hear again tonight in your dreams. The fluid smells like boiled cabbage and old coins. You dab at it with a rag soaked in rosewater vinegar. That's supposed to help. That's what the manuals say. You know it won't. You try anyway. You pack the wound with a poultice, dried fig paste mixed with crushed onions and lard. It's an old Arabic remedy. Might as well try it. Some of the best medical texts were written centuries ago in Baghdad, back when European medicine still relied on balancing humours and consulting planetary alignments. You cover the wound with cloth. You say a quiet prayer. You don't even know which saint you're asking, maybe all of them. Then you look at the woman. She's standing behind you now, arms crossed tightly over her chest, as if trying to hold her breath without letting you notice. She doesn't ask if he'll live. You both know better, but she still whispers, "Will it help?" You say the only thing that keeps you from choking on the silence. "I hope so." You don't tell her that this particular treatment has a fatality rate of nearly 80%. You don't mention that your textbooks recommend leeches, toad powder, or, no joke, rubbing crushed emeralds into the skin. That layout one's expensive. Doesn't work, but at least it sparkles. You've also tried the hot onion pressed to the chest method. That one ends in tears, for everyone. Then there's the boil the patient in vinegar water idea. You only did it once, you're still not ready to talk about it. Historians still argue whether plague treatments helped at all, or if they merely gave the dying something to hold on to. Some modern scholars say a few methods, like lancing buboes or herbal fumigation, may have slightly reduced bacterial load. But overall, medieval medicine was about as effective as praying really hard while blindfolded in a thunderstorm. Still, you do it. Because even pretending to help is better than standing idle. Your next patient is a young girl. 9, maybe 10. She's got the rash, small dark splotches blooming across her chest like ink blots. Her parents are dead. The neighbours say she hasn't spoken in 2 days. You try dried wormwood under the tongue. You burn a bundle of sage by her bed. You place a charm, yes, a literal charm, under her pillow, a wax disc with a holy verse carved into it. You'd be surprised how many people believe in it, and how many plague doctors do it just in case. Superstition doesn't mind if you're desperate. She doesn't look at you, doesn't move, just breathes in short, hiccuping gasps. You sit beside her for 20 minutes, just breathing, just being there. You don't write anything in your book. You don't touch your mask. You just listen. Then you leave. Back at your quarters, you wash your hands in rosewater and vinegar. You light a bit of frankincense, let it fill the air. You strip down and scrub your robe with a stiff brush and prayers. The blood from this morning is mostly gone, but not from your head. You wonder how many of the people you treated today will live. The answer, if you're honest, probably none. But you try. Because maybe tomorrow one will surprise you. Maybe the girl will wake up. Maybe the merchant will start to sweat less. Maybe the man with the black tongue will last another sunrise. You cling to those maybes like they're cures. Because the alternative is unbearable. It starts with a smell, not the herbal haze of your mask, not the sour whiff of vinegar-soaked cloth. This is thicker, darker, a metallic sweetness that coats the back of your throat before your brain catches up. You know it instantly. Death. The house is quiet. No cries, no prayers, not even the rustle of shifting bodies. The door is ajar. You push it open with your staff slowly, half hoping someone will shout at you to go away. No one does. Inside, the family is still. 3 of them, mother, daughter, grandfather, posed around the hearth like they've simply paused time. The girl is curled up beside the older man, his arms still wrapped around her. The mother sits slumped on a stool, a dried cloth clutched in her hand as if she'd meant to wash something and forgot midway through dying. You don't speak. You don't pray. You do your job. First, the journal. House near West Well. 3 deceased. No signs of struggle. Probable death in sleep. Buboes visible on 2. Third, undetermined. You don't check for a pulse. You can tell. The stillness has a shape. The silence has edges. Next, you mark the door. A small smear of black pitch. That's all. Someone will come with a cart later. Maybe. If the bodies aren't taken by then, the neighbours will do it themselves, or burn the house down. You step back outside and pull off your gloves. You don't know why, maybe to feel something. The air is thick, the sky bruised with smoke from a dozen bonfires. Somewhere down the street a bell rings. It's not a church bell, it's a funeral bell. It's been ringing all day. You see the cart before you hear it. It turns the corner slowly, led by a man with one hand over his mouth. The other hand holds a lantern, though the sun's still high. The cart is piled with bodies, some wrapped in cloth, some bare, all limp as forgotten marionettes. You wave him over. He nods, grim, says nothing. You point to the door. He nods again. He's probably done this 50 times today. You've stopped counting. Historians still debate how many people plague doctors actually saw die, whether their work kept them on the edge of death or dropped them right into its core. What's clear is this. Plague towns were death machines, and you were one of the few walking parts still ticking, and there are no funerals anymore. Not really. The bodies are collected and taken to the edge of town, where shallow pits yawn like mouths too tired to chew. Priests say a quick prayer, if they're not too sick themselves, and the dirt returns to doing what it does best, forgetting. One woman insisted on a burial for her daughter, paid 2 men in bread and cheese to dig a hole behind their home. She wrapped the girl herself, sang her a lullaby through her tears. The neighbours reported her for violating quarantine. By evening, the girl's grave was flattened, the woman gone. You think about her sometimes, about how rituals crumble under weight, how even love starts to rot when the world is on fire. There's a myth, spreads through towns like wind in dry grass, that plague carts are cursed, that if your body touches the wood, even alive, your soul won't reach heaven. Superstitious nonsense, of course, but you never lean on the cart, not once. You pass the chapel. Its doors are open, incense pouring out like a slow fog. Inside, a lone monk chants prayers in Latin, his voice cracked from overuse. No one sits in the pews. Most of the congregation has moved on, to graveyards or better myths. A few weeks ago, the priest collapsed mid-sermon. He didn't die immediately. He kept preaching from his bed. People said it was a miracle. You visited him once. He asked you to write his final words down in your journal. You did. They weren't particularly profound, but you wrote them anyway. Everyone deserves a final line. You return to your quarters as the sun sets. You light a candle, too tired to remove your robe yet. You sit at the edge of your cot, the mask still on, hands in your lap, staring at the wall like it might blink back. The city doesn't sleep. You hear coughing outside, dogs barking at something unseen, someone muttering a prayer over and over again like a broken spell. You finally move to remove your mask, but something inside you hesitates. You've worn it for so long it feels like skin. Removing it feels indecent, too exposed, too honest. Still you do. You place it on the stool. It stares at you, hollow-eyed, curved beak pointed toward the floor like a tired judge. You breathe in. Real air, real scent, real silence, and you realise something. You haven't cried in weeks. You're called to the outskirts today. Beyond the main road, past the crumbling stone bridge with the ivy that's somehow still thriving, there's a cluster of homes not yet touched by fire or cart. It's quieter out here, less ash in the air, fewer eyes watching your black figure pass. You think for a moment it might be peaceful. Then you reach the house and see the doorframe painted with red streaks, not ink, blood, a warning. The man who meets you at the threshold isn't sick. He's armed, a knife in one hand, a rosary in the other, and madness in his eyes. Back, he says. You're not taking her. You freeze. He's young, maybe 30, lean, sunburned, sleeves rolled up to his elbows, face gaunt with fear more than hunger. Inside the house you hear coughing, 2 different rhythms, one wet, slow, one sharp, high-pitched, probably a woman and a child. You raise both hands, palms out, staff lowered. I'm here to help, you say through the beak, voice hollowed by the musk's echo. It doesn't help. You still sound like death's accountant. No, the man says. You'll mark the door, then the carts come. You don't reply right away. You've seen this before, people holding onto their sick like they're bargaining chips, as if not admitting the plague will keep it away. You take one slow step back. "I don't have to go in," you say gently. "Not yet, but they need clean water. Burn the soiled linens. Ventilate the room. Rue under the windows." He narrows his eyes, uncertain. You nod once more, then turn and walk away. You don't look back. This job makes you many things: witness, scribe, deliverer, liar. But most often, you're the thing people fear more than the illness: confirmation. Historians still argue whether plague doctors brought calm or chaos to afflicted towns. Some believe your presence reassured people that someone, anyone, was trying. Others argue it marked the beginning of the end. The black coat and bird face were more funeral than future. You've been refused entry before. A woman once spat at your feet and slammed the shutters when she saw you. You didn't blame her. Her child was inside, coughing so hard you could hear it from the street. You never went back. 3 days later, you passed the house again. The windows were open. Inside, silence. The door unlocked. No one left. You've learned to let them make their choices. But sometimes you don't get to choose either. 2 days ago, a man lunged at you with a shovel, accused you of poisoning the well, called you a devil in feathers. He struck your mask and broke the beak clean off. You bandaged it with twine and paper, fixed it that night using melted candle wax and desperate optimism. But now it whistles slightly when you breathe. You tell yourself it's charming. Today, another house. This one lets you in. But it's no better. The woman here won't stop talking. Words pour out of her like water through a cracked jug. Her husband lies motionless on the bed. Her 2 sons, red-faced and wheezing, sit on the floor, heads against each other like they're sharing strength. "He's not really sick," she says. "He's just tired, just the heat. He gets like this every summer. And the boys, just a cold. They're strong. They're always strong." You nod. You take her hand, briefly through your glove, and place a packet of dried herbs in it. "Hang this by the window," you say, "and boil the water before drinking." "See," she beams, "not the plague." She thanks you, smiling so wide it looks painful. You mark the house with white chalk instead of black. Technically, that's for under observation. In reality, it means please don't come back yet. As you leave, the younger boy coughs again, wet, violent, a bit of blood on his sleeve. You don't turn around. Your route takes you past the edge of town where travellers used to pitch tents and play music. That was before the walls closed. Now, only a few outsiders linger. Merchants trapped by lockdowns, pilgrims too sick to continue, and thieves too afraid to die elsewhere. One of them calls out as you pass, "Birdman, got a cure for sore feet?" You don't answer, but you toss him a sachet of camphor. It's not for feet, but it smells nice. The man laughs genuinely. "Thanks, Plague Crow." You chuckle under your breath. Later that evening you write in your journal, 3 refused entry, 1 under observation, 2 hostile. You don't record the laughter, or the moment when one child reached up and touched your glove, whispering, "Don't go." You just stare at the mask in your lap. The part that was broken is still a little loose. The crack inside the beak lets more air in. You should worry. You don't. Instead, you think about the man with the knife, the girl who smiled too wide, the boy with blood on his sleeve, and you wonder how many times today you've lied just by showing up. The church bells ring again tonight, not for mass, not for weddings, not for any gathering the living are welcome to. No, this time it's the death bell, the slow, spaced-out tolls that mean someone important enough to be missed has stopped breathing. Or at least someone rich enough to afford the toll. You follow the sound through the city, past alleyways that stink of stagnant rain and old fish, toward the old quarter. The buildings lean together like drunks, the walls sweat. Every window seems to have a set of hollow eyes behind it. You're headed toward the rectory. Inside, the senior priest is sick. Not the younger ones, they've already scattered like frightened pigeons, but the older one, the one with the limp and the booming sermons, who insisted God would protect him if he just prayed hard enough and rubbed enough frankincense on his chest. Turns out, frankincense is only slightly better than doing absolutely nothing. You enter the room, it's dim, the air thick with incense smoke and wax fumes. He's on the bed, breathing like each inhale is being negotiated one breath at a time. 2 other monks flank the bed, clutching rosaries like weapons. You approach slowly. The priest turns his head. His skin is yellow, eyes rimmed with red. His hand twitches. "Doctor," he croaks, voice dry as parchment. "I see. The angel of death wears feathers," You pause. "I'm not an angel," you reply, when the feathers are stitched. He chuckles, then coughs, then stops chuckling. You check his pulse. It's weak, not gone, but clearly on the farewell tour. One of the monks asks if he'll survive. You don't answer right away. Instead, you pull a small linen satchel from your pouch and tie it to the priest's bedpost. Inside, lavender, myrrh, a thin sliver of cedar wood. The monks watch with reverent silence, as if you're placing a relic. "He needs rest," you say, "and cool water. Keep the incense low, it chokes him." The monks nod. You know they'll forget by morning. On your way out, one of them offers you a cup of wine. Not as payment, but gratitude. You take it. You sit just outside the chapel, drink in hand, back against a sun-warmed wall. You tilt your head up and look at the darkening sky. A few birds still fly overhead. Crows, mostly. You wonder if they think you're one of them. There's something deeply ironic in this whole thing. The church blames sin. The rich blame the poor blame the foreigners, and meanwhile the rats are just doing what rats do, eating, breeding, thriving in filth, and hosting fleas like tiny landlords with no eviction policy. You've seen them, not just in alleyways or cellars, but inside homes, scuttling past bedposts, climbing into cupboards, chewing through the soles of shoes left too close to the wall. You killed one last week with your walking stick. Didn't even mean to, just swung on instinct. It squealed like a deflating wineskin. Historians still argue about the real transmission of the plague. Most agree it was a bacterial infection spread by fleas on rats, but some push alternate theories: bad air, human lice, even contaminated water. But back in your time, there's no microscope, no petri dish, just symptoms and guesses, and the guesses get dark. Some say it's a punishment for vanity, others say it's the stars, or the alignment of Saturn, or the Jews poisoning the wells, an old and cruel lie that has already cost hundreds their lives. You don't believe in any of it. You believe in dirty water, open wounds, and too many people too close together, but saying that won't save anyone. Later, as you walk back through the square, you see a man on a crate preaching to a silent crowd. His beard is wild, his robe is tattered. He's shouting about fire and wrath and divine vengeance. You slow, you listen. He says the plague is God's reminder that cities must burn for their sins, that flesh must be humbled, that birds in black robes are death's messengers. People nod. A woman cries. He locks eyes with you. "Even the doctors are marked," he says, pointing at you. "Especially them." You don't flinch, you don't reply, you just walk on. A small boy throws a stone at your back. It misses, barely. You don't turn around. Instead, you make one final stop for the day, a bakery near the edge of the square. The baker is gone, dead 2 weeks now, but his wife still runs the ovens, not for profit, for comfort. She hands you a crust of black bread. Nothing fancy, just warm and real. You nod in thanks. She doesn't speak. She just wipes her hands on her apron and keeps kneading dough like the world hasn't come undone. As you walk back through the alley, you hear the preacher again, his voice fading into the rising dark. The rats are only the beginning. Maybe he's right, but they're certainly the middle. You've started coughing, just once or twice at first. Nothing you'd notice in a crowded street or behind your mask. A dry little bark, like clearing your throat after breathing in too much incense. But now it comes at night, steady and insistent, scraping the back of your throat like a wooden spoon in an empty bowl. You try not to panic, it could be the smoke. You pass through so many herbal fires each day your lungs probably smell like a soup kitchen. It could be stress, or dust, or mold from that cracked beam over your bed. It could be anything, but you know what it probably is. Still, you get up, dress, fasten the mask, tighten your gloves with trembling fingers. No days off, no pause button. The plague doesn't wait, and neither do you. You step into the street, and the city feels different. It's not just quieter, it's emptier. The carts still roll, the bells still toll, but fewer eyes peek from windows, fewer footsteps echo behind yours. It's as if the city itself is receding, retreating into its bones. You glance down and realize something else. No rats. You haven't seen one in days. And that's not comforting. Historians still argue what it meant when the rats began to vanish. Some claim it was a sign the plague had burned through its first wave. Others think it meant the fleas had turned their attention to more stable hosts. Humans. You're not sure which thought is worse. You arrive at your first call, a stonemason's house. The note left at your door said he was showing signs: sweating, delirium, vomiting. You've read enough plague journals to know that combination like a poem. The door is unlocked. Inside, it's chaos. Not violence, just disorder. Clothes flung over chairs, ash in the hearth from 3 nights ago, a bowl of soup, half-eaten and curdled. He lies on the floor, half covered by a torn blanket, eyes glassy, skin pale. You kneel beside him. No mask can protect you from the truth up close. His hands twitch at his sides, fingernails caked with dirt from where he must have clawed at the floor during a fever dream. You check his pulse. It's there, but faint. Fainter than your own confidence. You open your satchel. There's almost nothing left. 1 packet of dried rosemary, a few cloves, a hard wedge of lemon that's more rind than fruit. You consider your options. All of them feel like lies told in lavender. Still, you crush the rosemary and press it under his nose. He flinches, barely. His eyes flutter. You whisper his name. He doesn't respond. You stay for a while, just sitting, hoping your presence might act like a weight that keeps him tethered to the living. Eventually you have to leave. You mark the door, not as dead, not yet, but close. You draw the line just a little lower on the frame. A silent code. This one is nearly gone. Your next stop is worse. A butcher's assistant, maybe 19. His mother pleads with you. She begs you to try something, anything. She offers a silver ring, a wool shawl, even her wedding chalice. You accept the ring, only because refusing would hurt more. Inside, the boy is writhing. His chest rises and falls like a drumbeat trying to outrun time. His arms are covered in sores. His lips bleed with every cough. You try to lance the swelling under his arm. It doesn't drain. It just splits, spilling blood like ink. You whisper apologies, not because they help, but because your hands are shaking now and it's the only way you can steady them. The mother holds his head in her lap and sings a lullaby that sounds like it belongs in another century. You've never heard it before. You hope someone writes it down. He dies before sunset. She doesn't cry. She just closes his eyes and asks if he'll be cold. You say no. You tell her he looks peaceful. It's the second lie you've told today. You write it all down in your journal. Every house, every face, every word you can remember. You try to be clinical, but your script wobbles. The ink smudges. That night, you lie on your cot and cough into your sleeve. 3 times, then 4. You run a hand across your forehead. It's damp. Probably just the weather, you tell yourself. Probably just fatigue. You chew on a piece of dried citrus and pretend it tastes like safety. But you know the signs. You've watched them bloom like bruises across too many faces. You've watched life shrink down to a shiver, a cough, a shadow. And now, maybe, it's your turn. You place your mask beside your bed. Not on the stool tonight, just on the floor, closer, like you might need it sooner than usual. The cough wakes you before the sun. It's dry at first, rasping and sharp. You sit up slowly, waiting for the lightheadedness to pass, then spit into a cloth. No blood, not yet. You press the cloth to your lips for a moment longer, just in case. Your head is hot, your thoughts swim. But you dress anyway. Gloves, robe, mask. The same ritual, slower now. Your fingers fumble with the ties at your collar. The mask's beak seems heavier this morning, pulling your face downward like a hand pressing your head into water. Still, you pull the hood up and step outside. The air feels thick, warmer than it should be. The streets are mostly empty. Only the very sick and the very desperate are awake at this hour. You're both now, in different ways. Today you're heading to the apothecary's home. He was one of the few who spoke to you like a colleague, not as a saviour or a monster, just another person trying to stop the world from rotting under its own weight. He gave you free bundles of dried rue and once showed you how to distill oil from bitter orange peel using nothing but a pot, a pipe, and mild insanity. You'd hoped he was immune. You arrive at his house. The shutters are closed. The usual copper pot outside, where he'd leave tinctures and satchels for those afraid to knock, is missing. You already know. Inside, it smells like boiled lavender and sour wine. He tried to make it pleasant, even in the end. His assistant greets you at the door, pale, shaking, eyes ringed in sleepless red. She doesn't speak. just steps aside and lets you pass. The apothecary lies on a cot in the back room. His hands are folded on his chest. His face is calm. You recognize the signs of a carefully staged death. He knew the moment was coming. He prepared. There's a note tucked between his fingers. You lift it, carefully. It says simply, "Don't waste the clove oil, you'll need it." You smile behind your mask. It's the closest thing to a laugh you've felt in days. You check the assistant. No fever, no visible buboes. She's not well, but she's not lost yet either. You give her a sachet of mint and instructions she already knows. Then you write it down in your journal. Apothecary, deceased. Death appears voluntary. Assistant, observation. You don't have time to mourn. Another messenger arrives, out of breath, shoving a note into your hand before sprinting away. You unfold it slowly. A fellow plague doctor is dead. You don't know him well, only saw him once at a distance, crossing the square with the slow, deliberate gait of someone trying not to be noticed. But he had a mask like yours, a robe like yours. You nodded once, he nodded back. It was enough. There aren't many of you left. Historians still debate how many plague doctors actually succumbed to the disease. The records are vague. Some lasted months, others lasted weeks. A few, blessed or cursed, survived entire outbreaks, but nearly all of them disappeared when the plague receded, either buried in mass graves or walking away without a word, never taking off the mask. You wonder which kind you'll be. By late afternoon you feel worse. The fever rises and falls in waves. Your vision blurs slightly around the edges. You start to hear things that aren't there. Whispers behind closed shutters, the creak of non-existent carts, the soft humming of a song your mother used to sing. You ignore it. You have one more house to visit. It's a midwife's home. She helped deliver 3 children during the outbreak, even after her own daughter died. Her hands shook when you last saw her, but she didn't cry, just asked if peppermint tea helped more than sage. You told her it did. It was a lie. She's sick now. Her neighbour sent for you. You find her in bed, cheeks flushed, lips cracked. She smiles when she sees you. "Didn't think I'd see the bird again," she jokes. You nod, kneeling beside her. Her pulse is fast. Too fast. Her breath rattles, but her mind is clear. She talks about her work, how many babies she's delivered, how she can tell the health of a newborn just by the first cry. You listen. You take her hand. You place a bundle of lemon balm under her pillow. "It smells nice," she whispers. "I hope it helps," you say. She smiles. "I hope it doesn't matter." You stay with her until she falls asleep. Then you leave. Outside, the sky has turned violet. Smoke rises in thin, delicate lines from rooftops. Somewhere a dog howls. Your cough returns, harder now. You sit at the edge of a fountain. It hasn't worked in months, but the stone is cool. You breathe through the mask, shallow and slow, and try not to tremble. You know what's happening. It's begun. You close your journal for the day without writing anything. Some days, you don't need words to know the truth. You don't sleep so much as collapse. Your limbs are heavy. Your eyes burn. The cough keeps coming, sharp and mean, scraping at your ribs like an animal trying to escape. You feel the fever settle deep in your spine, a cold coin pressed against overheated skin. You wrap yourself in a blanket that smells faintly of vinegar and wax, but it doesn't help. Still, you don't lie down to die. Not yet. The city sleeps restlessly around you. Somewhere a distant wheel creaks. A shutter claps in the wind. The night air is thick with wood smoke, incense, and that unmistakable staleness that comes when thousands of people are quietly suffering just out of sight. Sleep in a plague town is a negotiation. You try to keep the mask close, just in case someone knocks. The beak lies on the stool again, eyes watching. You startle every time you look at it. It's taken on a life of its own. Sometimes it looks like it's frowning. Sometimes it looks disappointed. You start hearing bells in your dreams. Real ones, you think. You can't always tell anymore. There's a rhythm to them. 3 slow tolls, a pause, then another 2. Someone told you once that means a child has died. Another version says it means someone under 20. Either way, the bells never lie. They just don't tell you who. You dream of walking through the city, past homes you don't recognize, past faces with no eyes. Your mask is heavier in the dream. The beat grows longer with each step. People keep asking you for help. You open your satchel and find it's empty, just a handful of dust. It slips through your fingers like guilt. When you wake, your hands are trembling. You sit up slowly, spine stiff, mouth dry. You wonder how long you were out. The candles burned low. The wax has spilled across your notebook, fusing part of the cover shut. You scrape it free. Your fingers leave smudges. You don't bother cleaning them. There's a knock at the door, 2 short raps, then silence. You drag yourself upright, mask in hand, gloves only half fastened. You open the door and find a child standing there. She's maybe 7. Her nose is running, her eyes are wide. "You're the doctor," she says. Not a question. You nod. Papa won't wake up. You follow her. She walks barefoot, steps careful but fast. The city is hushed in that way that only deep night can be. Every sound more intimate, every footstep echoing like a confession. You pass darkened homes and abandoned carts. You smell fire but don't see the flames. Her house is small. You duck to enter. Inside, it's quiet. Too quiet. A woman sits at the table, face buried in her hands. She doesn't look up. The child leads you to a straw mattress in the corner. The man is dead. Not freshly. Not hours ago. The stiffness has already begun. His hands are curled in, lips parted like he had one more thing to say. You kneel anyway. You check his pulse. His pupils, his skin. All cold, all still. He was coughing yesterday, the child says, but he said he'd be better today. You nod. Will Mama be okay? She asks, voice smaller than before. You look toward the woman. She's trembling. It's not grief. It's fever. You can see it from here. Her shoulders quake. Her hair clings to her forehead. She needs rest, you say softly. She needs water and clean cloth. I can do that, the girl says. You believe her. You press a bundle of dried lavender and bay into her hand. Keep this by her bed. She holds it like a talisman. You mark the door as lightly as you can, just a faint chalk line. A whisper, not a scream. Then you walk back into the night. Historians still argue whether children were spared more often than adults. Some records suggest higher resistance in the young. Others say they perished just as often but less visibly. What's certain is that the survivors remembered everything. The bells, the masks, the way the streets changed colour, the way silence meant more than noise. You return to your quarters and pour water from the jug. It tastes like copper and old cloth, but you drink anyway. Your stomach protests, your head spins, you lie down, mask still in your lap, and stare at the ceiling. Above you a spider moves from beam to beam. At some point in the night you hear crying. Not loud, not close, just soft, honest crying. The kind that doesn't beg for help or scream for justice. The kind that just is. You think of the girl. You think of the beak mask. You wonder how many more nights you'll hear that sound before it's your own. The city smells like it's trying to forget itself. It starts the moment you open your door. That thick, sour odour of wet ash, boiled cabbage, and whatever died under the floorboards 2 weeks ago. It's inescapable now, like the scent is baked into the cobblestones. You tighten the straps on your mask and step outside. Even through the beak's herbal stuffing, the stench seeps in. It's not just death anymore, that's the strangest part. You've grown used to the smell of bodies. There's a dry, almost metallic sweetness to it. But this is different. This is the scent of a city in collapse. It's rotting food, overflowing chamber pots, broken wine barrels leaking onto the dirt, half-dead livestock left to wander the streets, wet wool, burned bread, open wounds, and it follows you everywhere. Down the alley, the tanner's shop is finally closed. For good. Someone boarded the door with loose planks and smeared soot across the sign. The hides that used to hang there have gone stiff and grey, curling at the edges like forgotten scrolls. Even the rats won't touch them. You pass a fountain, dry for months now. Someone has dumped a bucket of urine in it. A cat laps from the edge anyway. You turn your head, not because you're surprised, but because you can't afford to care. Then there's the market square. Once loud, crowded, filled with smells that made your stomach growl. Spices, baking bread, oranges so bright they looked like lanterns. Now it's a graveyard for vegetables. Rotten carrots, split onions, softening turnips with flies dancing above them like drunk angels. No one bothers to clean it up anymore. People walk through it like ghosts, eyes fixed forward, scarves over their mouths, feet never pausing. There's no haggling, no laughter. just the constant shuffle of survivors pretending they're not afraid to breathe. You step into the apothecary's old shop, not for medicine, it's all gone, but to check on his assistant. She's sweeping, that's all, just sweeping. The floor is spotless, though no customers will come. You say nothing. She doesn't stop. Her broom moves in soft, rhythmic strokes, as if scrubbing away grief one speck of dust at a time. You leave a small pouch of dried lemon peel on the counter. She nods. That's enough. As you leave, the smell of vinegar hits you hard. Someone nearby is boiling cloth, an old remedy. The idea is that the steam cleanses the air. You know it doesn't work, but the ritual has value. Sometimes people need to feel like they're doing something, and maybe you do too. You take a detour through the butcher's lane. Someone's hung sprigs of rosemary and sage above the doorways. Not for sale, just warding. You pause to sniff one. It's faint, dried, but not gone. For a second, your head clears. Historians still argue whether scent management played any real role in slowing the spread. The theory of miasma dominated for centuries. Bad air meant bad health. So people burned sulphur, hung herbs, even carried pomanders filled with cloves and ambergris. You once saw a man walk through town with a sponge of vinegar tied under his nose. He died 3 days later. The problem is, most houses don't have chimneys. The smoke from indoor fires just lingers, clings to the walls, settles into blankets. You've walked into homes that smell like old bacon and despair. You've stepped into kitchens where the meat has turned blue and the pots have started growing their own garnishes. One home had garlic tied to every doorknob. The child inside was already gone. You write in your journal, smell worsening, fewer fires, fewer markets, herbal use increasing, visual signs of collapse, high. You pause. You cross out the last word, too clinical. You write instead. The city is fading. You know it's true when you reach the bakery. The wife who used to hand you bread is gone. The window is broken. Inside, a line of ants trails across a spilled sack of flour. A rat scurries behind a stool. The oven is cold. You light a small sprig of mint and hold it to your mask, just to remind yourself there are still smells worth remembering. You move on. Tonight, as you return to your quarters, you pass 2 men dragging a body wrapped in a bedsheet. They nod at you. You nod back. No words exchanged. Nothing to say. The smell follows you home. You undress slowly. Gloves first, then robe, then mask. You hang it all near the door, careful not to touch anything twice. You scrub your hands in cold vinegar, even though your skin is cracked and raw. Then you lie down, eyes open, listening to the night. You think of the market, the bakery, the cat by the fountain. And you realize something strange. You miss the smell of life, even the bad parts. You've always known the word quarantine. It's been whispered in prayers and scratched on doors, muttered by priests, shouted by guards. Sometimes you say it yourself, when people ask if their village will be spared, or how long before they can bury their dead. But today, you feel it. Quarantine isn't silence. It's a very particular kind of noise. The creak of carts passing without stopping, the distant thump of hammering boards, the flutter of cloth at shuttered windows. It's what's left behind when sound wants to happen, but can't. You're not supposed to be here today. The gate was closed this morning. Not locked, just left that way, with no posted guards, no explanation. A bad sign. You stood for nearly 10 minutes just staring at it. That old warped wood, the iron hinge drooping like it gave up last week. You considered turning back, but the messenger's note was clear. A home just beyond the gate, inside the quarantine district. A maybe. A child with fever, a grandmother not yet sick, a father afraid to knock on anyone else's door, and so here you are, inside a part of the city where no one wants to be. The houses here are sealed, rope tied around latches, wax stamps broken and repaired again. It feels like walking through a forgotten theatre. Props left in place, actors long gone. A door opens as you pass, just a sliver. You catch an eye in the dark. It closes again. The house you're looking for is marked with a yellow smear, saffron mixed with vinegar, a symbol painted in haste. You knock twice with your staff. The sound feels too loud here. A man opens the door. He doesn't speak, just steps back. Inside, the child lies on a mat bundled in too many blankets. His skin is flushed. The grandmother kneels nearby, whispering psalms. She doesn't look up. You check the boy's pulse. It's fast, but not crashing. His breath is even. No black spots, no buboes. Yet. You feel yourself exhale. Maybe it's not plague. Maybe it's just a fever, a normal illness, the kind people used to die from before this one made everything else seem polite. You take out your satchel, you offer time, instructions for compresses, advice on fresh air and cooled wine. You remind them not to wash linens in shared basins. The father nods, furiously, like you've handed him the keys to a city. He tries to pay you with a roasted fig and half a loaf of bread. You accept, and then you leave, marking the door gently. Observation. But the problem with quarantine isn't just sickness, it's loneliness. You feel it in every sealed window, every muffled conversation behind closed shutters. No one wants to speak too loudly in case the neighbours hear, in case someone thinks they're hiding something. Historians still argue how effective quarantines really were in the Middle Ages. Some towns enforced them with soldiers, others left it to the priests. Still others relied on coloured flags or chalk marks. There were places where entire city blocks were locked from the outside. Food passed through small hatches, waste dumped in barrels and ignored. And then there were homes like this one, quietly sealed off not by decree, but by shame. You pass a door painted with tar. That means the whole family's gone. No need to knock, no need to hope. Another door is open, but the house is empty. Someone scrawled a message across the floor in charcoal. Gone to the hills, no plague here. You hope it's true. Further down the street, a woman leans from her window to hang a bundle of aru on a nail. She sees you and nods, not a greeting, just acknowledgement. You exist, she exists, that's enough. You don't reply. You move through the district slowly, feeling the walls lean closer with every step. The streets narrow, the air grows dense. This part of town has its own weather. You return to the gate just after dusk. It's still closed. This time, you see someone standing just inside it, a guard in a patchwork uniform, face wrapped in cloth. "You shouldn't be here," he says. "I was summoned," you reply. He squints, then shrugs. Hope it was worth it. He doesn't open the gate, just steps aside. You let yourself out. On the other side, the city feels wider, not safer, just less still. You breathe in deeply. Even the rot of the main district smells fresh compared to the sour hush behind the gate. You walk home slowly, your boots dragging. You write that night in your journal. Quarantine holds, some hope, some fear. Walls do not protect, only separate. Then you fold the page over. Tonight the wind carries a different scent. Smoke. Distant, but growing. Someone's burning something large. You don't go to look. You've seen enough flames for one lifetime. You hear them before you see them. A strange thudding rhythm, like fists pounding wet cloth. Then the chanting begins, low, guttural, repetitive. You recognize the Latin, but not the melody. It rises and falls like a storm swell, growing louder as the sound nears your street. You lean out from the shadow of a doorway, and there they are, the flagellants, barefoot, hooded, faces hidden beneath linen smeared with ash. Dozens of them, maybe more, all moving as one, a slow swaying tide of bodies bent on punishment. Every few steps they stop. Each man draws a whip from his belt and flays his own back, red streaks blooming beneath torn tunics. Then they chant again, then they walk, then they whip, again and again and again. The people watch from windows and rooftops. Some cross themselves, some spit, a few cheer. You just stay very, very still. The flagellants don't like plague doctors. To them, you're not penitent enough. You're not praying with your flesh, not suffering loud enough. You carry herbs and wear a mask as if you can hide from divine punishment. Some of them believe your mask attracts the plague, like a magnet for death. You've heard stories. One doctor was dragged from his lodgings by a group like this. They tore off his mask, called him a demon, and left him bleeding in the square. Another was forced to join the procession, whipped alongside them for 3 nights before collapsing from exhaustion. You step back into the shadows. They pass by. Their feet slap the ground in unison. Their blood spatters the cobbles. Their voices echo off stone walls. And just like that, they're gone. Silence returns like a held breath. You exhale. Historians still debate the true role of the flagellants. Some believe they helped spread the plague more than they prevented it, moving from town to town, bleeding openly, sleeping in shared spaces. Others argue they brought comfort to frightened townsfolk, offering at least someone to blame, to worship, to follow. You think they're lost men trying to beat God into noticing them. Later that morning, you're summoned to a merchant's home, one of the wealthier families. Their son is sick. Not plague, they insist. Just a chill, a stomach ailment. He's just tired. Of course he is. When you arrive, the house is pristine. Rugs beaten clean, windows open, bowls of crushed sage in every corner. The boy lies in a grand bed, pale as linen, sweating through the sheets. His hands twitch. His lips are cracked. You ask the mother when the fever began. 2 days ago, she says. You nod. You've seen enough. Still, you examine him. You press his wrist, check the lymph nodes under his jaw, pull the sheet gently to inspect his abdomen. There it is. A dark swelling on the left thigh, the beginning of a bubo. The mother sees your shoulders drop. No, she says quietly. You say nothing. She reaches for your sleeve. Please, she begs. Don't mark the door. You look at her, then at the boy, then at your chalk. You nod. Not because she's right, but because you're tired. You write a note for her. Cool compresses, boiled water, burned linens. You leave a bundle of thyme and wormwood. She clutches it like a lifeline. You walk out in silence. You don't mark the door, but you write it in your journal. Merchant's son. Early signs, family denial. Observation suggested. Prognosis poor. As you pass back through the square, you see the blood on the stones where the flagellants marched. It's still wet in places. The smell of sweat, copper, and vinegar hangs heavy in the air. One child skips across it. You resist the urge to call out. You think again of the flagellants, their bleeding backs, their chants, their desperate certainty. And you wonder, is it worse to feel cursed or to feel nothing at all? You return to your quarters and wipe down your gloves. You change the herbs in your mask, cloves, mint, a tiny sliver of pine bark from a tree outside the city walls. You keep it for luck. As you prepare to rest, you hear shouting. You lean out the window and see them. Another group of flagellants heading east. Their whips swing in rhythm. Their chant curls upward like smoke. One looks up at your window. You can't see his eyes, but you feel him watching. You close the shutters. Tonight, you sleep without removing your robe, just in case. You've started writing more. Not just in your journal, the official one, the ledger where you list names, symptoms, deaths and marks on doors, but elsewhere. Scraps of paper, torn cloth, the margins of old alchemical texts, whatever you can find. The words spill out faster than your ink can keep up. It's not medicine, it's memory, a kind of desperate confession. You write about the man who laughed as he died, about the girl who tried to give you her favourite stone as payment, about the merchant who didn't cry when his son passed, just sat in silence and asked if he should open a window. You write it all. Sometimes you think if you write fast enough, death won't catch up. Other times you know you're writing your own eulogy in slow motion. The journal stays neat. You keep that one clinical, composed. It's the others that unravel, messy, poetic, strange. You find yourself scribbling things like, "The plague doesn't knock, it seeps," or "Hope tastes like vinegar and lies." You don't know who will read it. Maybe no one. Maybe that's the point. You return from a house call and realize you've started muttering lines under your breath, pieces of a poem that doesn't rhyme. God walks in silence now. The birds don't answer. You blink, shake your head, try to pull yourself back into the present. Your fever is rising again. You feel it, but you keep moving. The next house is already waiting. It belongs to a gravedigger. You'd think he'd be used to death. Maybe he is. But today he's pale and shaking, cradling his own wife's head in his lap like she's already gone. She isn't. Not yet. But her skin is blotched, her breath shallow. You examine her quietly. He doesn't speak. His hands tremble. You do what you can. It's not enough. It never is. As you stand to leave, he looks at you for the first time. She used to sing in the morning, he says, before the digging started. You nod. He adds, now there's no birds left to answer her. You stop. You reach into your satchel and pull out your smallest satchel of dried rose petals and mint. You place it in his palm, close his fingers around it. He nods, not grateful, just aware. Historians still argue about the mental state of plague doctors. Some insist they were hardened professionals, practical, distant, methodical. Others believe many went slowly mad, surrounded by despair, isolated behind their masks. There are letters, records, fragments of songs scrawled into margins of medical texts, drawings of birds bleeding into masks. Some wrote poems, some wrote nothing, some simply vanished. You return home and sit beside the candle. It's burning low. You stare at the flame until your eyes blur. You pick up one of the scraps of paper beside your bed and start again. I saw a man carry his wife on his back and she sang while he wept. No one asked why. We all knew. You pause. The ink smears slightly. You add, "It was raining, but not enough." You fold it and place it in the box beside your cot. You don't label them anymore. That evening, a young apprentice from the printer's shop comes to your door. He's flushed, breathing hard, his hands ink-stained. "Please," he says. "My master, he can't see. He says there's light but no shape." You follow him. The shop smells like melted wax and burned paper. You recognize the signs before you even enter. The heavy perfume of ink mixed with that too sweet scent of infection. The master sits slumped in a chair, blindfolded, sweat pooling at his collarbone. You peel the cloth from his eyes. They are clouded, yellowed. You test his pulse. Weak. Buboes along the collarbone just beneath the skin. He doesn't flinch. Doesn't speak. Only mumbles the names of fonts and phrases. Gothic script, bastard Italian, lowercase k, lowercase. You write it all down, not in the journal. In the margin of one of your own letters, you write, "He died with ink on his fingers and letters on his lips." The apprentice doesn't cry. He just asks if you want to take anything from the shelves. You decline. You walk home slowly. The air is cooler tonight. The moon is visible, small, yellow, the colour of old linen. You think about the mask, about how many things it's seen, about whether it sees you back. You write again before sleeping. They say the mask is for protection. I think it's for forgetting. You place that one beneath your pillow, just in case. They're starting to think you're not human. Not all of them. Just enough to make the walk between houses feel watched, whispered about, feared in a new way. It used to be you were the bearer of bad news, the shadow in the doorway, the one who showed up when things were already past saving. Now, some think you caused the plague. Today, a woman spits through her window when she sees you. Not out of insult, out of defense, a ritual, a curse, a prayer. You're not sure, you just keep walking. At the next corner, two boys follow you from a distance, throwing stones at your back. They're not brave enough to get close. The stones miss. You don't turn around. You're not a man in a robe anymore. You're a bird-shaped omen. You lean into it. You adjust your posture, lengthen your stride. The robes catch the wind and flare around you like wings. The mask creaks a little now when you breathe, an accidental whistle that sounds just unnatural enough to spark new rumours. Someone calls you the Crow Priest. Another says you speak to death itself, that you record the names of the living so you'll know who to return for later. One child told a story about how you can smell lies through your beak. You didn't correct her. You're not sure you'd want to. Superstition's a double-edged stick. On one hand, it protects you. People clear paths when they see you. They stop asking too many questions. They give you space. On the other, it isolates you deeper. No one touches you. No one thanks you anymore. They avert their eyes even when you try to offer help. You visit a weaver today. She's not sick, not yet, but her husband died 2 nights ago. She hasn't eaten since. The house smells like mothballs and old ink. You can tell she's been sleeping beside the body, or trying to. She doesn't cry when you arrive. She only points to the table, where a bundle of cloth sits, black linen stitched with gold thread. "A gift," she says, "for the bird." You unwrap it slowly. It's a new robe, lighter, sturdier, not waxed, but tightly woven, meant for movement, meant for show. You nod. You try to say thank you. Your throat catches. The fever's rising again. Still, you take the robe. You bow slightly. She closes the door without another word. You hear her begin humming as you walk away. Later, you wear it. Not because you believe in superstition, but because you've realized something important. They don't know who you are under the mask, and maybe that's a gift. Historians still argue whether plague doctors deliberately embraced their mythos. Some records show doctors leaning into the spectacle, posing in public, carrying ornate staffs, wearing embroidered hoods. Others suggest the opposite, desperate underpaid men trying to avoid notice, hunched in shadows, muttering prayers into their sleeves. You think both are true. You remember one plague doctor who painted white wings on the back of his robe, said it helped children trust him, said it made him look like something divine instead of something to fear. He died early. You wrote his name in your journal. Now your own myth grows. People leave offerings outside your door, bundles of herbs, small coins, crude drawings of birds with halos. One child left a single egg wrapped in cloth. You don't know what it means, but you place it gently on your shelf beside a dried sprig of rosemary and a tiny wooden cross someone else left months ago. You're becoming a shrine. One of your patients calls you Saint Plumer. She kisses the hem of your robe. You don't stop her. You've given up correcting them. You dream that night of flying. Not graceful, not soaring, but stumbling forward with awkward wings, your mask turning heavier and heavier until it drags you face first into the sea. You wake choking. You grab your water jug and drink too fast, coughing harder now. Your ribs ache. Your breath whistles through cracked lips. You look in the mirror and don't recognize your own face. Not because it's changed, but because it's been so long since anyone else has seen it. You whisper, just to hear your voice. I am not a bird. It sounds like a lie. The mask watches from the stool. You put it back on anyway. You stand in a street painted with ash. Someone burned the old mill last night. Not because it was infected, but because it was there. A landmark, a memory, a building that had survived too long while others hadn't. People watched it burn in silence, the way they might witness a public execution. No celebration, no mourning, just relief. The air still carries its scent, scorched wood, cracked wheat, hot iron. It mixes with the usual perfume of sickness and fear, creating something uniquely foul, uniquely ours. A woman passes by carrying a dead chicken in a basket. Its head hangs over the side like it's still eavesdropping. She doesn't see you, or maybe she pretends not to. You've been wondering lately, did you ever actually help anyone? Not comfort, not appearances, but real, tangible aid. You want to believe yes. You need to believe it. But the numbers in your journal argue otherwise. So do the empty homes, the crossed out names, the notes left on doors that no one ever came back to read. Historians still argue over the legacy of plague doctors. Some paint you as heroes, men who braved the sickest streets, who wrote down what others wouldn't even whisper. Others call you little more than walking talismans, official mascots of civic panic, as useful as holy water on a house fire. There's truth in both. You remember the child who got better. She had a fever, a rash. Everyone assumed the worst. But it wasn't plague, just some other misery. You brewed thyme tea, laid cool cloths, burned wormwood beneath the window. She recovered in 2 days. Her family thanked the saints, not you. You remember the man who survived a ruptured bubo? You don't know how. You drained it, washed the wound in vinegar and garlic paste, whispered prayers you barely believed in. He spent a week delirious, then sat up and asked for bread. He survived. He left the city. Didn't tell anyone. You only found out because his neighbour mentioned it weeks later. Doctor, she said, that one walked away. Can you believe it? You did. But only because it seemed too absurd not to. Then there were the others. The ones you sat with, held hands with, told lies to. You'll be fine. Your mother is still sleeping. The swelling will go down. All those tiny fictions strung together like garlic on a doorframe. Did they help? Maybe. A lie said gently can still be a kindness. You reach into your satchel and pull out one of your scraps of writing. It's smudged, almost unreadable now. It says, I gave them herbs and hope. One of them worked. You fold it back up. You visit 3 homes today, all refusals. They see you coming and close the shutters, lock the doors, hide behind holy symbols and soaked rags. You leave satchels at the thresholds. One house opens just wide enough to take it before slamming shut again. This is what your legacy looks like now. Fear in your shape, silence in your wake. You stop by the quarantine wall on your way home. A boy is sitting near it, drawing with a stick in the dirt. Birds. You recognize the shape, the mask, the robe. It's you. He looks up and smiles. You tilt your head. He says, Are you magic? You pause. No, you say. He frowns. Then how come you're not dead? You think for a moment. Then you kneel beside him. Maybe I am, you say. I just haven't stopped walking yet. He nods solemnly, goes back to drawing. You leave before his parents can shoo you off. That night, you sit in your quarters and read old entries, the names, The symptoms, the dates, all so precise, all so futile. You write one more note, this one on clean paper. I walked among them. I tried. Sometimes that was enough. You seal it, not for a reader, for yourself. You stare at the mask one last time before lying down. It's not as frightening as it used to be. Now it's just a mirror. There is no exit plan. You wake up coughing. Harder now. There's blood this time, just a little, but enough. You sit on the edge of your cot, wrapped in your robe like it's part of your skin, and stare at the floor. The wooden boards creak beneath your feet, warped by months of damp air and your pacing steps. They remember more than you do. Outside, the streets are quieter still. The city is folding in on itself, like a lung that's forgotten how to expand. Even the bells don't ring as often anymore. It's not because people stopped dying, it's because there's no one left to ring them. You should rest, but you don't. There's a call waiting, scrawled in charcoal on a scrap left at your door. Child, North Gate, alone. You gear up slowly, movement stiff, mind slow. You can feel the heat behind your eyes, the weight in your chest. Every breath takes work. Still, you fasten the mask, adjust the beak, gloves, staff, satchel, and then out again. The city greets you like an old acquaintance who's run out of things to say. Same cracked stones, same empty stalls, same smells of rosemary, death, and slow-cooked rot. At the North Gate, a girl waits beside a bundle of blankets. She's no older than 10. Her hair is matted, her eyes sunken. She clutches something wrapped in cloth, a baby maybe, or a sibling. You kneel beside her. What happened? She doesn't answer. You lift the cloth gently. It's a doll, not a body, just linen, straw, and buttons. She holds it like a heartbeat. You sit beside her. You're not sick, you say, softly. She shakes her head. Where are your parents? She shrugs. Papa left. Mama got quiet. You don't press. You offer her dried apple slices and a sachet of mint. She takes both with quiet gratitude. Then she asks, Are you going to die? You look at your hands. They're trembling again. Yes, you say. She nods, like that's the right answer. Then she leans her head against your shoulder, and you let her. You stay like that until the light changes, until the long shadows stretch, and the breeze picks up dust, and the girl starts to doze against your side. When you finally move, you mark the wall beside the gate, a circle enclosing a single vertical line. Not official, not from the city's records. It's your symbol. It means alive, leave food. You walk her to a nearby house, the one with the dog that still barks, the one that lit a candle every night even when no one knocked. They take her in without asking questions. You thank them with a nod. They thank you with a longer one. Then you return home. Your legs ache. Your skin burns. You lie down without undressing. You can feel the end drawing near, not in some poetic way, but physically. Your breath is shorter. Your heart thumps too hard after too little movement. You're forgetting words mid-thought. Even your dreams are thinning out like pages stuck together and lost. There's a temptation, you realize, to make a grand exit, to write something profound, to lay your mask on the steps of the chapel, to mark your own door in charcoal, but you don't. You know how this story ends. You wrote it 100 times. You've seen it more than you've seen your own reflection. Historians may never know your name. They'll argue over your worth. Your mask will be filed under costume, your efforts debated in sterile lecture halls. Your journal may be lost or burned or found in a box no one opens. But for now, you're still here, still breathing, still trying, and maybe that's enough. You write one final entry. If this is my last day, let it be quiet. Let it be kind. Let someone else pick up the mask when I fall. You fold the page, place it at the top of the stack, not because you're done, but because your hands won't write much more. You lie down again. The wind rattles the shutters. Your mask rests on the stool, still, waiting. The day begins like a sigh. Your breath is shallow, but still moving. Your body aches in that slow, sinking way that feels like being folded in warm, wet cloth. You're not better. But you're not gone yet either. Outside, the streets remain half asleep. A few voices echo distantly. Traders, maybe, or scavengers. No bells, no carts, no summons. You sit up slowly, bones creaking like an old book's spine. You pull on the robe. Not because you expect a house call, not because of duty, but because the robe feels more like you now than the skin beneath it. The mask, though, today it stays on the table. You just can't lift it yet. Instead, you rest your arms on your knees and stare at the wall. You remember them all. Not faces, not names. That part's gone soft around the edges. But impressions, echoes. The mother with the too-clean kitchen. The boy with the egg. The apothecary who died neat and proud. The girl with the doll. The old priest who joked with his last breath. You remember their silence, their eyes, the way they still held out hope like it might be enough to buy them one more morning. You wonder if anyone will remember you. You've begun to notice something strange. People leave things at your door even when they don't knock. A sprig of sage, a folded prayer. Once, a neatly carved wooden bird, its wings slightly uneven, but clearly made with care. They've stopped asking for help, but they haven't stopped seeing you. It's quiet now. The fever wraps itself tighter around your chest, and you feel your pulse slow, not in panic, but in acceptance. You've run your leg of the race. You've marked the doors, drained the buboes, lied gently when the truth would have been cruel. You've walked until your mask became your name. Historians still debate your legacy, whether plague doctors were healers or record keepers, symbols or scapegoats, whether they helped at all. But you don't care. You're not here to argue, you're here to witness. The city's still dying, but it's quieter about it now. Less fire, less shouting, more sighs behind shuttered windows, more empty spaces where markets used to be. Fewer people, but more watching, more nods, more unspoken gratitude. A woman passes your window today. She pauses, places a loaf of bread on the step and keeps walking. You don't know her name, she doesn't know yours, but that's how it works. At dusk, you finally lift the mask again. It's heavier than you remember. The straps are stiff. The herbs inside are dry and cracked, but you place it on your face like a crown. You stand. Not for duty, for ritual. You step outside. The street is empty. The last of the sun warms the rooftops in gold. You walk slowly, listening to the wind, to the soft squeak of your gloves, to your own breath echoing through the beak. You leave no mark, no chalk, no door to knock. You just walk. Because even now, that's what you do. At the edge of the square, you stop. The wind carries the scent of smoke again. Faint, distant. A cooking fire, maybe, or a funeral pyre. You close your eyes behind the mask, and you rest. Let the city fade behind you now. The narrow alleys dissolve into soft shapes, the scent of smoke and herbs giving way to nothing at all. The weight of the robe lifts. The heaviness in your chest eases. Your breath slows, smooth and shallow, like a tide at midnight. There's no more knocking on doors, no more ink-stained notes, no more guessing if a child's fever is the kind that ends with a quiet sleep or a long coughing night. Just stillness. And even though the mask is still on your face, it feels lighter now. Like the beak is hollowed of fear, filled instead with old whispers and quiet hopes. You walk through the last light of day not as a doctor, not even as a man, but as something softer, something between breath and memory. Let yourself feel how far you've come, through heat and fever, through ash and bells and silent goodbyes. And now, just the soft rustle of your robes as you find a place to sit, any stone step or worn bench will do. And let the dusk take its time. There's nothing left to fix, nothing left to fear. You've seen enough, you've done enough, and for now, it's okay to simply be. Close your eyes. Hear the wind moving through the empty streets like a lullaby made of dust and lavender. Let your shoulders drop. Let your hands unclench. Let your breath settle. You are safe. You are still. You are not forgotten. 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 You are not forgotten.